222 612.
ABC Radio Brisbane and Queensland.
Have you ever watched a Tiny Desk concert? This is where the biggest stars in the world perform live at a very little office desk, and it's become quite a thing. Some of the people who have done Tiny Desk concerts include Ed Sheeran, Adele, Tom Jones, Chappell Roan, Justin Timberlake, Ben Folds, Norah Jones, Sting. You getting the picture? So for a Tiny Desk, it is a really big thing. And one person who knows it intimately is Josh Rogosin. He's been a music producer for NPR's Tiny Desk concert series for a decade. Tonight, though, he is a long way from home in the United States of America. He is right here on 612 ABC Brisbane and Queensland. Josh, welcome.
Thank you, Beck. It's so exciting to be here.
I love that one of the first things you did was you came into the studio and you were like, I mean this as a compliment, like a dog sniffing around a bone. You're like looking at the microphone going like, what is this? What is this? Like a true audiophile.
What is under that pop filter? It's a Neumann, folks. That's really high quality stuff.
It's good.
Way to go, ABC.
Yeah.
Very impressed.
All right. I'm going to tell Ozzy and Pete and Cy, all our tech people.
Well done.
They will be happy. Hey, so some people will know Tiny Desk concerts because they pop up on social media feeds and they are like music for the soul, right? Some people won't know them at all. Can you give us the kind of the potted history of the Tiny Desk concert?
Yes, Bob Boylan, whose desk it belonged to, as well as Stephen Thompson, they were at a music venue in South by Southwest, Austin, Texas. The artist was Laura Gibson, and they couldn't hear her over the cheering for March Madness, which is our big basketball celebration that happens to coincide with South by Southwest. So as a joke, they went up to Laura Gibson after her performance and said, "Wow, we really loved what you sang, but we couldn't quite hear you very well over all the shouts and screams over the basketball match. So what if you just when next time you're in DC, come and perform at our desks so we could actually hear what you're all about." And believe it or not, she called their bluff, showed up in Washington and said, "All right, I'm ready for my concert." And Bob thought, all right, time to dust off some video cameras and a microphone. It was 2008. And sort of out of necessity grew the Tiny Desk concert series. That was long before I joined the show in 2014, but it took about that long from 2008 to 2014 for the show to kind of catch fire.
That's so great. I love that it's kind of a simple story and then it turns into a global thing. And so that desk is at NPR, which is like public radio in America.
It's like
right?
the ABC of the United States is NPR for the radio side.
And is the Tiny Desk concert now a sought after venue for artists?
Yeah, I mean, it started just as a very humble beginning behind the desk of Bob Boylan. He was the director for our national news program, All Things Considered. And out of that, he created All Songs Considered, because the director is in charge of choosing all the musical bumpers between the stories. Bob would get bombarded with all of these questions. What is this music from? What is this music from? So he started a music show in 2002 for your computer. Air quotes, because normally, you think about podcasting happened much, much later than 2002. So he was sort of always a trailblazer. And now the show has grown so popular that every traveling artist, we are bombarded with pitches and requests from anyone you can imagine. But I love how humble Bob always kept it. He always mentioned, anyone on the team who works in the music department at NPR can pitch a Tiny Desk concert as long as it's a musician that they feel passionately about. He doesn't care if they're famous, how many followers they have on Instagram. It's all about the love of music of the team that worked together. So it was a wonderful thing to be a part of.
And the desk itself, Bob's desk, is it still Bob's desk?
No.
No, it's now a dedicated performance space?
Bob retired, or he didn't retire. He left the show about I don't know, a year ago. And then not long after that, I made the decision to leave the show as well and start my own venture, traveling the world and inspiring the next generation of audio professionals and musicians to think about capturing music in a really organic way as a journalist,
Yeah.
as opposed to as a technician.
Well, I read today that you are described as the Anthony Bourdain of music discovery.
That's my hope. That's the plan.
That's so cool. All right, well, we'll get to some of the adventures you are having, Josh Rogosin. But right now, your adventure is here in Australia. In fact, today, well, you've been up very early this morning.
Yes, I've been up since 5 a.m. and I met the wonderfully talented Juganji, who's an Aboriginal musician. Met him over at the State Library at 6 in the morning at the Talking Circle.
Yeah.
My connection over here was JMC Academy and Dan Sparofsky, who invited me to come to Brisbane and to speak and inspire the students and talk about all of my experiences recording 800 concerts over the course of 10 years behind my pal Bob Boylan's desk.
Yeah.
Now it's just a set. So it was a wonderful opportunity to connect with this city and a musician who's Aboriginal and from this city in such a gorgeous spot so early in the morning, having all of the students from JMC Academy helping me run cables and set up mic stands and teaching them how to use gaff tape properly. Like, because that's how micromanaging you'll get. Like, okay, you have to think about the gaff tape at the end of the night. So you want to put up a little courtesy tab, so you don't want to tack it down so it sticks to your cables. And these are the tiny little minutia bits of knowledge that I want to impart upon the next generation of audio students and musicians.
I love that. It's such a generous approach to work and to music and creativity. So let's just dip into some of those. How many concerts did you say?
About 800.
About 800 concerts. All right. We just sort of grabbed a few bits and pieces because I wanted to illustrate for the audience tonight just the sound quality that you managed to achieve at these tiny desks. So, for example, this is Sting and Shaggy together at a tiny desk concert.
1, 2, 3, 4. Come on for me, selector, put your hands in the air one time. I want to see you rock it up now. Whoa, hey, tiny desk, away with it. Whoa, whoa, we gotta rock it one time for the reggae beat. Whoa, whoa, early morning reggae style. Hey, I don't drink coffee, I take tea, my dear. I like my toast on one side.
How about that vocal tone, Josh? My goodness. So, even though it's a tiny desk situation, are you miking it up, with lots of different mics to capture all of the different elements? Because different bands might have, 6 or 8 or 12 people and backup singers as well.
Oh, yes. It's always a very varied approach and opportunity. But like with Sting and Shaggy, everything started with one stereo shotgun mic. And that was what my predecessor, Kevin Waite, my mentor, he really took the approach of capturing music as a journalist with a shotgun mic, as a radio reporter might run around to gather sound and to isolate audio. And I just supplemented what he had created by augmenting that stereo recording with individual tracks, a separate track for Sting's bass, a separate track for the drum machine, individual microphones for the backup singers and stuff like that, by augmenting that stereo sound with other individual lines of audio. It started with 8 channels, I expanded it to 16, and by the time I left, we were up to 24.
Were you always an audio nerd? Like as a kid?
I was always a theater nerd. I grew up actually performing in theater. I was an actor. I played Tommy in The Who's Tommy. I was Claude in Hair. I was in Jesus Christ Superstar and Evita. I played Duty in Grease. So I grew up in a very theatrical family. My mom was an original Musketeer in the 1950s in Los Angeles. And my dad was a conductor. He conducted for Johnny Mathis. So I grew up around a very musical household.
Yeah.
And by performing in theater, that's really what gave me my ear training, how to learn about harmony, how the balance between different instruments should sound. And I just took all of that sort of early background and applied it to something else that I love, which is recording music and recording and working with musicians, but approaching it not as like a studio engineer where you're going to retake everything a million times and it has to be perfect because it's for the record forever. I love the temporal nature of journalism, right? Like here we are on the radio. I love how ephemeral it is because in 20 minutes, it's poof, it's gone. But here we are with all of these people, right? We're all gathered together, like we're in a theater, but a virtual theater. And I just love that. So I love the approach that I had and I have with music as approaching it as a journalist, leaving the warts in. It doesn't have to be perfect. It can have some humanity. You hear the audience laughing and enjoying themselves. We're capturing a moment in time.
Yes.
Rather than trying to perfect something.
I love the imperfection of radio too because it's so real, it's so authentic. Before I play Cheryl Crow at a Tiny Desk concert, Josh Rogosin, you mentioned your mum is a Musketeer.
Yes.
Is that the group, is that like the Britney Spears, Christina, is that?
That was the second generation. My mom in the 1950s with Annette Funicello was probably the most famous Musketeers that Walt Disney himself created. There's pictures of my mom with Walt Disney. She also was a dancer in Elvis films. I have a picture with my mom with Elvis. It's just like wild because I grew up in Los Angeles.
Your mom and Elvis Presley.
Yeah. No, I'm not in the picture. Just my mom. Sorry. No.
Okay,
I am in
sorry.
a picture with Annette Funicello, though.
Right.
It was at like a Musketeer reunion. You know, MICKEYMOUSE. You got it.
Yeah.
You guys got that over here, too.
We did indeed. Wow, this is so cool. And yeah, to hear that this is all kind of feeding into what has become, well, even more than a career for you, I think, Josh Rogosin, in terms of the way you pursue concerts all over the world now, global sound concerts and ghost light concepts. Josh is here. He was speaking to students at JMC Academy today, but for many, many years he was the music producer for the NPR's Tiny Desk concert series. I just want to keep illustrating via audio.
Let's hear more music.
Yeah, let's hear a little bit of Cheryl Crow. I got the goosebumps.
Ooh, this one's streamed out live, so it's actually interesting to hear it. Oftentimes I will record it, and I'll have a lot of time to sort of work on the post-production, get the balance just right. This one was one of the only concerts that we actually streamed out live as part of a festival. We did 4 nights in a row of live concerts. So it's really interesting to hear this in that context. And it's like, okay, thank goodness, it still holds up. And it's just about that really raw, organic sound. It's kind of imperfect. You hear a little bit of like noodling and, oh, what was that sound? And, oh, wait a minute, this is actually capturing something that's very stripped down, that's very real. That's very like, oh, maybe this is what it sounded like when Cheryl sat down to write it. Maybe.
Maybe. Do you necessarily know that she's going to do that call out at the beginning, mentioning Tiny Desk?
Absolutely not.
I mean, what a thrill, just that moment.
Yeah, it's cute.
Yeah,
Yep.
very cute. Just outside of our studios here, Josh, see the Big Ferris Wheel?
Yes.
I used to do a segment where I would occasionally get special guests to go on the Ferris wheel.
I'm ready.
With me.
Where do I sign up?
Okay,
I'm actually going to go right after this. I'm not
really?
kidding. So,
Oh, how sweet.
when do you get off the air?
Well, I actually convinced Hanson, the band, to do it with me back in the day.
That's
but
fun.
I note that you managed to convince them to do a Tiny Desk concert as well.
Well, I gave you love, you know it. So when did you outgrow it and decide that you would find another man? Yeah. Well, you've been out there shaking the tether boss chasing. You get home, you think I'll be the big man. Yeah. 'Cause I've been something other than you. Hey.
I mean, we got 1, two, three voices. We got guitar, and then suddenly there's a piano in there as well.
Yes.
This is at a desk in an office.
That's right. And it's a very small amount of space. I mean, actually, where the audience stands, they've cleared out all the cubicles so people can stand and enjoy the show. But actually, behind the cubicle, behind the desk, it's not that much space. So when we fit massive, massive groups, I brought theater. I introduced theater to Tiny Desk. That was sort of my contribution as a producer, was to invite Blue Man Group, and they crazily took it over and through streamers, and they were dressed in blue. And I thought, oh my gosh, everyone's gonna watch this and think, uh-oh, Tiny Desk jumped the shark, like Tiny Desk, it shouldn't be doing this crazy theatrical stuff. But I convinced Bob, hey, let's try it. And now, of course, there's 20 million views on the show and everybody loved it. So my nervousness of trying to bring something new to the show was completely rewarded, was a lesson in, taking risks and trying things different. Try to break it a little bit. I brought in Hadestown. I brought in The Lion King. I brought in Wicked with Stephen Schwartz, the composer. I know Wicked's playing in town here in Brisbane.
Just across here.
I had Stephen Schwartz, the composer of Wicked, at the piano telling stories about how he wrote all of the songs with the current Broadway stars. And it was just such a wonderfully magical moment of just sort of like, wait a minute, these people are just like anyone else, with stories, with backgrounds. I'm sure as a journalist, like you get to talk to and interview and speak with all these incredible, talented, interesting people from all different backgrounds. But at the end, we're all just humans hopefully enjoying our communal experience. And that's what I want to share.
Yeah, I think, and what you've done is captured an intimacy that you don't get on a stage. It's a completely different experience to being in a theatre or a stadium.
That's right.
And yet it is still the thrill of performance.
Of live performance.
Yes,
but it sounds like a recording studio.
Yes.
That's a nice combo.
So you said for Blue Man
Group, yeah.
Blue Man Group, more than 20 million views. Any idea, like, if you stitch together all of the views?
Oh my God.
Of all of the concerts you've...
I mean, if you think about Mac Miller alone, that one concert, I think, has 100 million views. Just one show. And there's probably 100 shows with over 1 million views. I don't know. It's probably about 1 billion. I don't know. It's nuts. It's nuts to even think about. I recorded Sting and Shaggy, as you heard, but I was at my little mixing desk on the side of the desk checking line levels, and in walks Bono and The Edge, of U2. And I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, they're here. Bono beelines it right from my little station with The Edge trailing right behind him. And he comes up to me and he says, "Are you the guy?" And I said, "No, Bono, you're the guy."
Such a good response.
And he said, "Oh, well, how do you do it? How do you make it sound so good and so intimate? And oh my gosh, and you're just in this office and there's air conditioning." And it's like, I said, "Bono, I could tell you, but I'll have to kill you. I'm so sorry." Just joking around. And I had him sign my favorite U2 album, The Unforgettable Fire. Check it out, folks, if you haven't heard that one. And anyway, he crossed out, he says, "Is this for you?" And I said, yes. He crossed out the word fire on the album and wrote Josh. So it reads, "The Unforgettable Josh, love Bono." And I'm like, what is my life? It's just nuts.
What is your life?
Yeah, getting to record my idols, oh my gosh, including the band Idols, which I love as well.
Hang on, so you two did a Tiny Desk concert then after that, or?
Yes, that was that day.
Oh, that was that day.
Yeah, Bono and The Edge of U2 did a bunch of U2 songs.
Oh my God.
It was just The Edge on guitar and Bono singing. It was, and they brought in a children's choir for one of the songs. It was,
of course, they did.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. Amazing. Now I was going to say to you, I'm sure each performance stands out for different reasons, but I don't know. Are there any others that I don't know, really hit you in the heart?
Yes.
That will stay with you?
Yes. I love the Latin artists, actually. Natalia Lafourcade from Mexico, Veracruz. She was just so beautiful. She sung these traditional Mexican songs with traditional instrumentation. Half of her band were above the age of 60. It was just like so stunning, singing boleros and that style of music. There's also Monsieur Pyrenees from Bogota, Colombia. I just love their energy, and they also dressed in traditional outfits because they were so proud of where they came from. And that's why I thought, oh wow, I love doing all of this stuff. 150 shows a year. behind a desk at NPR, but I love all the different culture that comes through the doors. And I was wondering if I could reach out and share that culture with another audience that might also appreciate it. And that's why I created Global Sound Concerts, which is why I came also to Brisbane to work with an Aboriginal musician this morning. And tonight, we're about to go right after this interview, and after I ride that Ferris wheel, we're heading over to the Princess Theatre, folks, and I'm going to record a musician there around a ghost light. The ghost light is the light that they put out on stage at the end of every performance, and sort of like a superstition to keep the ghosts out. There always should be a light on in the theater. So the thought is to feature venues from all over the world, the Sydney Opera House or the Princess Theatre right here in Brisbane, which is the oldest theatre in Queensland. I just learned tonight,
Yes.
1888. And it's going to be the very first episode. And I found a musician to record. We're going to head on over there. He's going to have a small little audience. We're just having one light in the middle of the theater, and we're going to have a performance there, the first performance of Ghost Light Concerts.
Brilliant. Can you say who the artist is?
I don't even remember his name.
Okay, we'll have to look out for that. Ghost Light Concerts. You are listening to Josh Rogosin tonight on 612 ABC Brisbane and Queensland. My name's Rebecca Levingston. For a decade, Josh was the music producer for NPR's Tiny Desk concert series. Before you go and ride that Ferris wheel, let's just touch on some of the other recordings that you have done. I want to play a little bit and you can tell us about this. Yes.
Ya sé que nos conocimos ayer, que no eres de aquí, solo hablas inglés, but just call me, baby G, just call me. Que ahora ya no duermo bien y no sé por qué, pero estoy obsessed, yeah. Just call me, baby G, just call me.
Who are we listening to there, Josh?
That is Santax, and I was lucky enough to travel to Valencia, Spain, and record across from the Berklee College of Music campus there in this gorgeous, gorgeous fountain with an unbelievable architecture behind it of the Palace of the Arts in Valencia. It's just the most stunning architecture. And I found an artist, Santax, who's from Valencia. And that's the whole part of the series, Global Sound Concerts. It's to find artists where they are from, to learn about that place and that culture, and find a really dramatically interesting location. And as you heard in the background of that recording is a siren.
The sirens,
and
that's what I wanted to ask about.
Audio engineers and producers would say, oh, no, we have to stop, we have to start again. Oh, that siren was there. I love the siren. The siren is what puts it in a place and time. And as a journalist, that makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up.
Me too. I loved it. And at first I was like, am I hearing that here? Oh no, I'm hearing that there.
And it's recorded in such a fidelity. It's like, wow, it's like stereo, it's like real. It's like, is it behind me? Exactly.
So good. All right, I'm going to play another one here. Andre Beltran with El Mulu.
Yes.
What can you tell us about that?
I was lucky enough to travel to Mexico City for a wonderful conference there called Soundcheck Expo. And I knew I was going to travel there, and I spoke to my friends who were from Mexico City and said, do you know of an artist who would be great? I talked to some other friends from Mexico City. Do you know of a location? And whenever I choose a location, I want it to be very emblematic of the place, but not necessarily the most iconic. Like, I don't want to record underneath the Ferris wheel of Brisbane because it's kind of very obvious. I loved doing the State Library, and this little talking circle had a much more interesting angle to it. So I was able to find a location called the Park Quetzalcoatl. Park Quetzalcoatl. I'm sure I'm murdering that. However, it was this beautiful 25-acre location with snakes and rambling hills and beautiful scenery. And it was raining when we showed up. And we were lucky enough to find this beautiful indoor location that hit the nail on the head. When I got the suggestions, I saw it and I'm like, that's the place. The only way to get to it was to book it on Airbnb, which I did not do because it was like $1,000 a night. But luckily, the artist that I found that was suggested to me, that I found through friends, and I listened to his music, Andre Beltran, he happened to know a photographer for the Parc de Quetzalcoatl. So he magically got us permission to record there. And the acoustics in this most exotically beautiful looking room, which you could see if you go to the Global Sound Concerts YouTube page. It's the very first teaser reel of the opening sequence. You'll get a sense of what I'm talking about. And the natural reverb that you'll hear right now in that room was stunning.
If you close your eyes, you could think you're in the same space.
Exactly, and that's the whole point. You can actually hear my beautiful girlfriend Francesca Ticchioni shot the video that if you're listening, you can kind of hear the sound changing. You hear a little bit of rain trickling at the beginning, and she enters this tunnel and slowly walks through the tunnel. You can hear the reverb in the tunnel start emanating during the intro, and then you show up to them and you're in the room, and I can hear every moment of the video just listening back to it. So when you match it to the video, it's a super magical experience.
I love that you have carved out this career in life and in the world, and that we've just gotten to know a little bit of you and your Musketeer mum.
Yeah.
By the way, Helen's saying, "Oh my goodness, I used to love the Musketeers. I loved Annette Funicello
Yes.
as well." And now you progress through NPR and Tiny Desk concerts, and now you are the Anthony Bourdain of music discovery. Josh, it's been such a delight to meet you tonight. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Beck.
Enjoy the Ferris wheel ride.
Yeah, I'd stay, but I gotta go.
You got to get on the Ferris
Look
wheel.
at that thing.
And then you've got
Literally
a ghost light concert to get
That's
to.
true. That's true.
You're busy.
I'm a busy guy.
All right. Enjoy your time in Australia.
Thanks, Beck.